Good evening, everybody, and welcome to our fourth, hard to believe it's the fourth, but our fourth induction ceremony here at the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame. My name's Roger Hurto, and I consider it a privilege to be asked to be here to MC this event. It's awesome just walking around, talking to everybody. A lot of faces that I haven't seen in a while here tonight. I know some of you are new. This is maybe your first time here, and some of you I know I've seen each and every time. So again, we thank you for your support of the organization. Tonight, we are going to induct 3 more Lewistown Panthers to the fold. Yeah. Another Chief Logan Mingo. Just can't get rid of that Mingo green. Just can't do it. That's right. Even the tablecloths tonight. I wanted maroon tablecloths because we have our first ever Kish inductee tonight. But of course, yeah. All right, Kish people. Yeah. And we have an Indian Valley Warrior being inducted tonight too. So that makes up everybody here this evening. Couple housekeeping things, especially for those of you that have never been here before. First of all, if you ever need to use the restrooms, go. Don't even think about it. Right through the door here. Please feel free to go whenever you need to. All right. Also, with your cell phones, if you could lower those, that would be great. Tonight's festivities are being recorded. I want to thank Mr. Matt Moore back there, who's running our audio and video tonight. Thank you, Matt. And the recordings, by the way, will be posted next week on our YouTube channel on MCTV and on our Mifflin County our Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame website. So you can look for those there in about 4 or 5 days. All right. We'd like to start tonight with 2 things. First of all, I want to ask for a moment of silence. I don't know if you saw, but a great moment from one of our previous ceremonies here was the night head coach Harold Wirtz was here with the Rothrock basketball team, our state champions back in 1963. And we just found out that Harold Wirtz passed away this past week. So if you would please, just 1 moment of silence. Thank you. Now, if you are able, would you please rise? We're going to start, as we do every year, with our national anthem. This is a recording of the anthem that is sung by our Mifflin County High School Cantare. So that is the voices you will be hearing, and also our media group at MCTV put together a little video to go along with the national anthem that has some nice local landmarks there as well. Okay, so without any further ado, Francis Scott Key's Star Spangled Banner. Thank you, everybody. So I'd like to recognize just a couple people before we get started. First, I want to thank John Panizzo and everybody here at Birch Hill for accommodating us so well. John is not here tonight. He's busy, out of town doing some things, but again, we want to thank John and his staff. Also, the group from the Downtown OIP, who is catering everything here for us tonight. And again, a reminder, the cash bar, if you're thirsty during the event, please go help yourself. That's going to remain open until 8 o'clock. So 8 o'clock will be the last call at the bar there. We have some local media people here who are covering the event for us. We'd like to recognize them as well, too. Ray Wild, where are you? Ray? There's Ray back there. Ray is a media member of the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame. He was inducted in that regard a couple years ago. And not only is he here tonight, but he's working tonight, too, for the Sentinel. So we thank Ray for pulling double duty. Also want to recognize Kenny Varner. Kenny's back there from Hometown Sports. Thanks, Kenny, so much. And our photographer, Kathy Reed, is also back there in the back with Mr. Moore. So again, thanks to all those folks. Also, I'm happy to announce that we have 8 of our former inducted members back. That's always makes us feel good when the people that we put in the Hall of Fame come back to the proceedings. Do want to recognize them. When I call your name, please stand and remain standing until we get through everybody. From our very first class, Mr. Ralph Baker is in the house. Ralph? Our first female ever inducted into the Sports Hall of Fame, and you'll be happy to know there's 2 more tonight coming, right? Miss Cindy Baxter is here. Cindy? From our class of 2022, Wendy Boer is here. Wendy. From that same class, Mr. Dick Gingrich is back there in the corner. Also from that class, I know I saw him earlier, Joe Heller. Where are you, Joe? There he is. And right up front, right in front of me here, Junior Powell. Junior, if you would stand, please. And our 2 nominees from last year that are back tonight, Kevin Kodish. Where's Kevin? Thanks, Kevin. And we're going to finish with another Mingo, Brad Hecker. Where are you? There's Brad. Let's have a nice round of applause, please, for everybody. Thanks, guys. Again, we really appreciate you coming back. I want to give a big shout out to our sponsors who do so much to help us make this event work. A special thank you tonight to Geisinger, who really stepped up this year, helping secure our guest speaker tonight, who we're going to introduce to you here in a few minutes. Also want to mention the following local businesses. If you could support these businesses, we'd appreciate it. MCS Bank, King Bar Funeral Home, Frank Garini, Big Valley Antique Center, the Randy Zook Scholarship Fund, and the Downtown OIP and Grill. So if you would, nice round of applause for those folks. All right, it's time for me to get out of here and bring up our president to address everybody. Please welcome Mr. Tim Sear.
All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome. Like Roger said, it's hard to believe that we've been doing this now. This is our 4th class. We got started back in 2020. Many thank yous are due. Roger covered a lot of those sponsors. Please take note in your program who they are. We have a 9-member board of directors, and they all pitch in. But I do want to take a moment to highlight a couple of those. The rest of us don't feel so bad. But Roger, for the work he does in emceeing this event and putting together the videos that you're going to see very shortly. Brian Hecker, our vice president, who did yeoman's work working with the printer and putting our program and everything together and getting the young ladies to go outside here and try and get some members to sign up as they come in. And finally, this member is sort of the Jill of all trades. She keeps the notes at our meetings. She takes care of the online registrations and sets all that up. She does the banquet organization and about 50 or 60 other things that I can't think of right now, but Cher Harpster is here. This was probably our biggest year in terms of the number of members. We had 186 members, and believe it or not, just about 90% of the members handed in a ballot, cast their ballot for the inductees that we're going to see tonight. It was certainly one of the closest ballots that we've seen, and the members never disappoint. We have another excellent class, and we're all looking forward to that. I do want to say this. For those of you who are here for the first time, welcome. For those that are here for the second, third, or fourth time, the fourth timers will be our founding members. Thank you so much for your continued membership. If you're here as a guest, if you're here for the first time, please join us. Be a member. It's hard to sustain what we try and do when we start out every fall with 20 members that have signed up, and then I think everybody who leaves here tonight will feel good about the program and about our inductees. I do have to note, one of the things that the board has stuck to its guns on is that inductees, if you're voted in, you're inducted when you can come to the program. And there's a couple reasons for that. Number one, it wouldn't make any sense if we had a program and none of the inductees were here. Wouldn't be very exciting. And you as members deserve to see them. So, unfortunately, Ken Weitzel. Many of you know Ken and of his accomplishments as a wrestler. First state champ from Lewistown High School. At the time, I think Ken had 100 wins. He was a pinner. He had the county pin record at least, and I'm pretty sure I got some of that stuff accurately. But and he did this all in a day when kids didn't wrestle 35 matches a year. So when you got 100 wins back in the 1970s, that was quite an accomplishment. And he was our first state championship from Lewistown High School. Ken could not be here, had personal commitment, but he hopes to be here at one of our future events. I won't repeat, Roger did a great job. Please support those sponsors. It's hard, we learned very early, it's hard to sustain what we do here. We think we have a nice event. But it's hard to sustain what we do with $20 memberships and a margin of a couple dollars on the dinners. So we need those sponsors, and a lot of the community people have stepped up, and we're very grateful for that. Mitchell, welcome. It's glad to have you. I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say. You are the third wrestler in a row that we've had here. Some of you may remember last year we had John Fritz. I'm going to take an extra minute and tell the story I told to Mitchell, and I think it speaks highly of the character of wrestlers. I wasn't a wrestler, so that's okay. But we inducted posthumously last year Rod Tate, the first Mifflin County State Wrestling Champion from Penn Highlands. We inducted his team into the Hall of Fame. We had a member who knew John Fritz pretty well from his days over the mountain, and John always took a little bit of a ribbing because it was John Fritz, an NCAA champion, an All-American, head coach, Penn State Wrestling, who lost in the state final. He was pinned by Rod Tate from Mifflin County. So he was approached, and he said, "Would you come and speak at our event?" I said, I don't do much of that anymore. You certainly ought to be able to find somebody to do a little better job. Well, I'm asking you, I thought, because we're inducting Rod Tate posthumously, and I'll be there. So I think that's pretty cool. It speaks highly of the character of the wrestlers. I'm sure we're going to hear from another high character young man tonight in Mitchell Messenbrink. I think we might make a little bit of news here. Those of you who Flow Wrestling, some of you know that. This may be reported. Even Mitchell doesn't know about this yet. But we try and make our guests feel welcome. We have a little gift basket behind me here that we'd like Mitchell to have. It's all local products, not only to show our appreciation, but also to allow you, as a championship wrestler, to give you everything you need to stay in fit shape and ready to go. We have Hartley's potato chips, both plain and barbecue. We have Asher's chocolates and chocolate-covered pretzels, which I'm sure we have that high-caloric, very good Italian dressing from Angelo's that tastes so good. And most importantly, all together now, from the Big Valley, we have whoopie pie. So, the news that may make it out there, Mitchell, is you may have to bump up a couple weights for next year based on that. But we're glad to have you here. Looking forward not only to hearing from you, but also to see these videos that Roger does a fantastic job putting together. And it's great to hear from our presenters and our inductees. As always, I would expect there to be laughs tonight. There'll be some tears, as there usually are. But everything is in celebration and recognition of those inductees tonight into the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame class of 2025. So renew your membership, become a member, sit back and enjoy the evening. Thank you.
Okay, it's time to bring Mitchell up here, and I was talking to my son-in-law, which I occasionally do, Trey Hartsock. Trey, some of you may remember Trey. He was a wrestler, went on to wrestle in Lock Haven, and I told him who our guest speaker was, and he just stopped in his tracks. He said, "Really?" I said, "Yeah." He goes, "He is really intellectual." Now, for my son-in-law, that's a big word. I cut that part out. But he was dead serious, and I found out, and I checked with Mitchell outside. I said, according to my son-in-law, you guys came over to Mifflin County High School a while back, and Mitchell said, yeah, it's like a year and a half, and talked to the wrestlers, and he said, we were just blown away by him. So when my son-in-law uses a word like intellectual, and then I look at our program, and it starts talking about Mitchell with the following sentence. It says, Mitchell Messenbrink talks as fast as he moves on the mat. And his words are as insightful and as his actions are productive. What else do we need to say than that? That has me interested to hear. So I'm just going to shut up and get him up here, guys. Penn State's 165-pound national champion, Mitchell Messenbrink.
Yeah, I really appreciate you guys having me. I feel honored to be here where, we have people being inducted into Hall of Fame, where I feel very humbled that I'm only 21, and hopefully, that's going to be decades into my future, and I'm really appreciative for you even thinking that highly of me to be able to speak in front of you. It's good because one of the things that I kind of wanted to speak about were, difference makers and people that, strive for excellence, whether it be in business or things like sport, right? Tonight, that's what we're, honoring. And just kind of my time through where I grew up, and then now so grateful to be at Penn State with some of the best, not only wrestlers, but men that I've ever met. So I grew up in Wisconsin, right in between Madison and Milwaukee. It's about 2 hours north of Chicago. My dad was a very good coach and became a teacher at the high school that I ended up going to. It's called Arrowhead. One of the guys that he coached ended up being an Olympian. His name is Ben Askren, and that ended up being my coach as well. So Ben and my dad ended up coaching me, so I've been very lucky my whole life to be surrounded by people that were able to coach and wrestle, and not only that, but be, intellectual minds, be very smart and think about things intellectually and conceptualize things in a different way. And I've been very lucky to be surrounded by great men. And then on the other side, my mom, she was always there to, it's funny, so how I wrestle, I don't even feel like my dad really instilled in me. It was more my mom. My mom and dad, they never really cared if I won or lost. They just wanted me to go out there and bring it and put it on the line, right? And do the best I can. And there were three things, whether it was in like Pee Wee soccer or in my chess club that I'd go to or wrestling, my dad would say, he'd say, do your best, bring your hustle, never give up. And that's something that has always stuck with me for, decade and a half later, and it will. And it'll be something that, my parents taught me, my coaches preach, and that I'm gonna teach to my kids. And so basically through that time, it was never really about the outcome of things. It was just about the process of getting better and growing into the man that, that I'm so grateful for people to say things in an introduction speech as for myself, And so I never felt like I was very, very good at wrestling. It was something that I did. I wanted to be good at it, but I never really, clicked until my senior year. And at that time, it really became clear to me, and something that I tell my friends, if they're just not having the success right away, is it's not a matter of if it'll happen, but just when. And again, I think these things that I'm saying, difference makers, it's way more than sport. My coaches, especially Coach Kale, when I go up into the wrestling offices and talk with them, they talk so much about, this is just so quick in terms of how long I'm going to be wrestling. Even if I wrestle for the next 10 years, like that's a very small portion of my life. That's not even half of my life. And so, just being really, really cognizant on that I'm not going to be wrestling for forever. And that it's about building those things, right? Building the things that matter, being a good man, that's one, having faith, because to believe in everything is to believe in nothing, so pick something that you want to believe in, right? And then also just everything that you do is 100%. So I ended up, it was interesting, my senior year, I kind of was able to have that difference, the difference maker, where I finally kind of jumped levels and was able to be, more of a higher prospect in terms of a recruit and colleges wanting me. I had already committed to a place in California, and I really wanted to try to stay loyal. And I ended up going out there, and unfortunately it didn't work out, and I ended up going back for right after the first semester I went home. And there's something that I heard a quote, and it said about how anything that your parents do for you after you're 18 is just out of pure love. And my parents took me back in, and I was able to live at home from December till about June, and I was able to enter the transfer portal, and I was able to look out of, again, my parents' pocket, and I was able to look at different schools that I wanted to go to. And I haven't expressed this, but ever since I was about maybe 7 or 8, one way that my dad made wrestling so fun is that we'd watch Penn State. It's funny, the first dual meet in rec hall that I ever got to see was the first one that I wrestled in. And so we never got to come out and watch something, but whether it was online or at NCAAs or Big Tens, my dad would take me to it. And just the way that the wrestlers and the coaches competed, that's exactly what I wanted to do. that's exactly who I wanted to be as a man, and that's exactly how I wanted to compete as a wrestler. And so when I entered the transfer portal to be able to look at other schools, as moms usually are, they're always right, but you know, we had to kind of back, me and my dad were like, well, Mom, just hold on. She said, I think if you don't go to Penn State, you're always going to wonder what could have been. And you know, me and my dad were like, all right, well, we can't think of it that way. You know, I was very nervous because I had kind of gotten stuck at the old school in California, and I had to come back and go to school, come back home. You know, and I didn't really, as much as I loved my parents, I didn't really want to do that again. I wanted to go to school, I wanted to get my degree, and you know, move on. And so I took my couple visits, maybe 4 visits to different schools, and they were all unofficially. And so I was planning on taking more visits just to make sure. But the first one I came out here, it was an official visit, and I remember watching practice, and I went up to my dad, and I was just like, I think this is where I want to go. This is where I want to be. And he, you know, obviously he was there for all those years that I loved Penn State, and he's like, really? I said, yeah. And so we went home, and before I even, you know, got home, I called Coach Kale, and I was like, I know I want to be there. And you know, he's like, oh, well, it's pretty soon. Do you want to, you know, did you pray about all this stuff? And I was like, I know, like, there's not a doubt in my mind that I'm supposed to be here. And again, like, the difference maker there was gratitude and understanding that I wanted to be there. And so I've been so lucky since then. Only 2 years ago was when I committed. And honestly, just like 2 years, I know now it's just so quick, and it's just blinked by. And I've been so lucky, again, to be surrounded by the best people, the best men and women in the entire world. I truly believe that. And buying into the process. You know, Coach Kale talks about so much about, you know, being grateful and in the little difference makers. Before every practice, he gets up and he speaks to us. And those are the big things he preaches, are gratitude and being grateful for all the opportunities. And not only that, but the opportunity to get up each day and be healthy. And maybe you're not healthy, but the fact that you can just be alive and breathe, right? And be here. We're at a beautiful place. I'm from Wisconsin, where everything's flat, so to look out and see mountains and beautiful green and all this stuff, like, we're so lucky to be able to be a part of that and be in a situation where, you know, we get to honor people and speak and, you know, have intellectual conversations and grow as people, because that's another thing that Coach Kale preaches. It's just, that's the main important thing, is we're helping each other, you know, further ourselves not only physically, but mentally, emotionally, socially, and spiritually. And again, those are big difference makers. And I think the hard thing for me is a big thing that we talk about, is humility. And it's hard to come up here and accept something where I'm going to be a guest speaker of an important role for something that's so important as tonight is. It's hard to get up here in humility. But again, I just think, going back to being grateful, having gratitude, and focusing on those things to be able to further whatever it is that I want in my life. So in terms of my wrestling, you know, that's what I want. That's what I want to keep pursuing. And whether it's only, you know, 2 years left, or 5 or 10, or maybe it gets cut short for whatever that is. Being grateful for however long I've been able to do it, and the amazing men and women that I've been able to be around. And just like that, like, wrestling is the reason that I'm here right now. So just being grateful up to this point. And then also just the way that I want to carry myself as a man and as a wrestler. And I want to be a dad, and those things in life, and really focusing on those things. And then also, you know, being a thinker, a free thinker, and pushing those boundaries of, you know, whether it be my occupation or just how I speak and treat people. again, I'm very, very thankful for you guys for having me here. Yeah, it's an honor to do that as a young person, and I really hope that some of the things that I said were able to stick or allude to some of the journeys that these men and women that are being honored here tonight, some of those insights into those journeys that they had to endure to be here, to be able to be honored tonight. So thank you.
That's what Penn State proud is right there. That's pretty impressive. Mitchell, thank you. Thanks also again to Geisinger, again, for their support, helping us secure Mitchell to speak here tonight. Our first presentation tonight is not one of our 6 members. It is Mr. Brian Carson. Brian Carson is receiving our Community Service Award this evening for his many decades of sports coverage as both a writer at the Lewistown Sentinel for 3+ decades and also as a broadcaster of wrestling in local radio. We've had 2 other people receive this award before. I mentioned Ray Wild and also Mr. Bill Corbin. Bill's not with us tonight, not able to be with us because unfortunately Bill's having some health issues. So if you could keep him in your thoughts and prayers, we would appreciate that. Unfortunately also Brian Carson cannot be with us tonight. Brian's having his own battles that he's having to deal with right now. But Brian did want to get a thank you message to everybody about receiving this honor. I'd like to thank Kevin Kodish for helping to get this video recording to us so we could listen to a brief message here from Brian. Like I said, I know this means a lot to him, and this was recorded from his home within the past week. Mr. Moore, are we ready? Here we go.
Since I can't be with you tonight in person, I hope you'll let me share a few thoughts from my heart about what Mifflin County sports and this honor mean to me. To the Hall of Fame Committee, thank you for this recognition that means more than you could know, especially at this point in my life. While my health prevents me from being there tonight, in many ways this feels fitting. After all, I spent 33 years teaching that the story is always bigger than any one person. From the desk where I've written thousands of stories about our community's athletes, I want to tell you one more. It's about a guy who got to have the best seat in the house for over 3 decades, watching our children grow up, our teams battle, our community come together in victory and defeat. It's about the privilege of being trusted with your stories. Every morning when I picked up my notebook and pen, I knew I wasn't just reporting scores. I was recording our community's history, your children's triumphs, your team's perseverance, your family's pride. None of this would have been possible without some extraordinary people who shaped my journey. My wife Maria, who understood why I had to miss another dinner, another weekend, another holiday, because somewhere in Mifflin County there was a story that needed telling. Scott Franco, you saw something in a young guy with no experience and gave me my first break. You taught me that a box score might tell you who won, but a great story tells you why it matters. To the Lewistown Sentinel, thank you for giving me a home for 33 years, for trusting me with our community stories, and for understanding that local sports coverage matters. You know what's amazing about sports journalism? Every season brings new stories, new heroes, new moments worth celebrating. For 33 years, I had the best ticket in town, a front row seat to the triumphs, the breakthrough performances, the unexpected victories that made Mifflin County sports so special. To be honored by the Mifflin County Hall of Fame alongside so many of the incredible athletes and coaches whose stories I've told, that's not just an honor. That's a celebration of every game, every story, every moment we share together as a community. I may have written the articles, but you, the athletes, coaches, parents, and fans, you created the magic. You gave me something worth writing about every single week. You filled my notebook with moments that deserve to be remembered, achievements that deserve to be celebrated, and stories that deserve to be true. So here's to Mifflin County sports. To the past we've chronicled together, to the present we're celebrating tonight, and to all the great stories yet to come. Thank you for letting me be one of your storytellers. Thank you for making every day at the keyboard an adventure. And thank you for this incredible honor that I'll cherish forever. Thank you, and God bless.
And we will make sure that Brian receives that award. And again, just you can see and feel the passion that he has for what he does. And to work in the media for the pennies that it is in this area, trust me, you gotta love it. You gotta love to do it, and he certainly did and does. Okay, time for our first inductee. Our first of our 6 inductees, certainly no stranger to the Hall of Fame committee. It's safe to say that without John Zimmerman, we would not be sitting here. John Zimmerman was the one who really pushed and made it so we could have this Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame and have moments where we get to hear passion and hear stories and great messages from young people like Mitchell. John was our first president of the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame, and he remains a guiding force in a lot of what we do. Really excited tonight too, because being a fellow Kish Indian myself, John is our first Kishkaquillas High School graduate to come into the Hall of Fame. I want a round of applause for that. Yeah! I've known John a long time. I got the privilege of coaching his daughter Leah for her basketball career. I did many broadcasts with John over the years at WCHX and called one very unforgettable parade in downtown Lewistown one night with John. Mr. Moore, are we ready? Ladies and gentlemen, our first inductee, Mr. John Zimmerman.
In his 1963 senior year, a multi-sport athlete left his mark at the new Kish High School in Reedsville. John Zimmerman lettered in basketball, cross country, and track and field for the Indians. On the hardwood, he led Kish to a Tri-Valley League championship, while individually taking first team and MVP league honors. He was a scorer with natural athleticism and jumping ability. That transferred well onto the track, where John set the school record in the high jump and won championships at both Juniata College and the Central Counties Relays. Showing his versatility outside of school, John also won a Central Counties Golf Association Junior Championship. After Kish, it was on to Dickinson, where he was a 4-year basketball letterman and was named first team All-Conference and Conference MVP as a senior. On the track, he owned Dickinson records in the high jump and for single seasons points scored in field events at the time of his graduation. His achievements earned him an invitation to the Olympic Development High Jump competition at the Penn Relays. As a senior, John joined the golf team and finished with a 12-1 dual meet record. After his playing days, sports remained a constant as he returned to his high school alma mater as an assistant coach on the football team. Years later, John Zimmerman was co-founder of the Mifflin County Youth Soccer Club. He also went on to serve as a girls basketball varsity assistant at Indian Valley High School on their 2001 Final Four team, the best season of any female sports team in the school's history. That same year, Zimmerman got the call from Dickinson as he was inducted into their College Sports Hall of Fame. Tonight, John is getting another call, this time from our hall, the one he was instrumental in founding back in 2020. The Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame welcomes our first president and our first graduate from Kishokaquilas High School, John Zimmerman.
John is being presented tonight. Just so you understand how this works again for our new folks, after the video, we'll call up a presenter, he'll have a speech, and then we'll hear from the inductee. For our first one here for John, his son Seth is going to be presenting John to the hall, and then he'll also be reading some prepared remarks from John. Seth, please come to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. I'll tell you what, Mitchell, for being 21 years old, you're a tough act to follow. You do a very good job out here. So, this is, I'm honored to be doing this. So, Dad, thank you for asking me to speak here tonight for you. And it's extra special for us. I think some people might know, but Dad is struggling health-wise. He has pancreatic cancer, and so tonight is extra special for him to be here with all of us and to be with family and friends and to be a part of this ceremony. You're stuck with the B team tonight. So if anybody's heard my dad get up and speak, he does a great job. He's very good at it. But tonight he's not strong enough to do that. So we've talked. We've had a lot of discussions. I'm going to be sharing some things. So I'm going to be doing, like Roger said, a little bit of the intro. I'm going to do this all in one speech, a little bit of an intro and a little bit of sharing stories that my dad has shared. So I think it's natural that it certainly is natural that a Hall of Fame induction and a cancer diagnosis would cause reflection, right? I mean, that's going to happen, and that has happened. So we've had a lot of really, really wonderful, it's been a blessing, what we're going through right now, Dad. To have some incredible discussions and conversations and reflections and memories. And what is very clear is that a lot of his reflections and a lot of his best memories revolve around athletics, and they revolve around sports and competition. And Mitchell, you talked about difference makers, and you talked about bringing it, and I think that's, and that resonated with me and us. I think that's who my dad is. And so competition has always been very important to him. He competes in everything, and sometimes can take it a little too far. So just one story that my mom has shared is my dad was having a hearing test, and you know how the noises keep getting continuously quieter. And so my dad wanted to compete in this, and he wanted to do really well. And so he held his breath so he could hear, and he did it for way too long. And he eventually basically passed out in the chair and fell on the floor in the eye exam place. So, but the point is, he competes in everything, right? And I think that's why he loves, in fact, I know that's why he loves it, because that's what we've talked about. He loves athletics because it's an opportunity to test yourself. You put yourself on the line and you succeed or fail. And if that isn't what sort of the essence of being alive is, or living, then I'm not sure what it is. And so, so competition. It has, usually it's healthy competition, and usually it does involve athletics. In the intro, we went through some things, the wonderful things that my dad has done. He's just been good at most things that he's done athletically. So in a household, we had a ping pong table in the basement, and I to this day, I'm not sure if I ever beat him. I think I did, and I'm not sure he didn't let me. But he is just naturally good at most of the things he's done. So, we talked, in the intro they talked about being good at basketball and high jumping and golf. And he was good at that in high school, and then he went to college. And I just wanted to make a comment on the breadth of those talents, right? So there's some innate things you can either jump or you can. And golf is sort of the other end of the spectrum, where that is a sport where you have to work at it, you have to practice, and basketball is sort of in between. So I think that that's me. That's part of the intro speech. So that's me sort of narrating here. But like I said, everything has been a competition, and most or many of his best memories are not about his exploits. And we had many conversations of things that he accomplished as a team, with others. And I think those are some of his best memories. And just some of those, I just wanted to share some of those things. So the first thing that came to mind when we were talking about these was 1963. Kish was playing Rothrock in basketball. Dad had the flu, couldn't play that night, and Rothrock was really good. And Kish was really good. And this was a big game, and my dad couldn't remember what happened, what it was for, a league championship or something, but it was a big game in 1963. And Kish, without my dad, the rest of the team rallied, and they went out and they beat Rothrock that night. So that was a big memory. I know Frank Zook was on the team. I saw his Kish Indians shirt back there. I think there might be some other folks maybe that were on that team. If I'm not saying your name, I apologize. But great memory. Perhaps his best memory that night is that after the game, the team bus took a detour and went out of their way to drive up to beside my grandparents' house where my dad was living growing up, and they put the bus windows down and put the windows down at my grandparents' house so that he could participate in singing songs in the bus ride home the way that they would do that after every victory. And the song that he always remembers, I think, is it Waltzing Matilda? Am I getting that right? Yeah, Waltzing Matilda. I would be remiss, my dad wasn't there, but he knows the stories. We've all heard it many times. I would be remiss to not tell the story about that night. The gym was packed, the fire marshal closed it, nobody else could get in, and the team was walking by, and Frank Zook heard somebody beating on the back door. Frank opened the back door, and standing there was Fran Fisher. Fran Fisher was, who went on to be the voice of Penn State basketball, or Penn State football. At that time, he was the sports director at WKVA in Lewistown. And so he was there to announce the game. And as legend has it, Frank saved the night that night, let Fran Fisher in so all the good people in Lewistown could hear the radio broadcast that night. Just a couple more things to share. Oh, my personal favorite story probably is my dad or my grandmother. My dad's mom she was also good at ping pong and everything. She was good. She was a really good golfer, and she was in the Lewistown Club Championship. She was not a good putter. My dad was a good putter, and he said, "Mom, why don't you let me caddy for you?" And so he caddied for my grandmother. He read, and he says he helped her read the putts. And that day, sort of out of character, she was a really good putter, and she won the Lewistown Country Club Women's Club Championship that year. And I know that story is near and dear to his heart and all of our hearts. I love that story. So I asked Dad, "Do you have any regrets athletically? Do you have any regrets?" And he said, "No, I don't have any regrets. But there were a couple of interesting what-if stories." So whenever he went to Dickinson College, and when he had his heart set on going to West Point. That's where he wanted to go. He had a scholarship offer to play basketball at Penn State, but he wanted to go to West Point. His dad was a military man, and had the congressional appointment. It was all set up. All he had to do was pass the entry physical, and he failed the entry physical. The reason was he had braces. You can't go to West Point, at least at that time, if you have braces on your teeth. So my grandfather did not want to throw away hundreds of dollars before the braces were completed, so he would not agree to take them off. So West Point was out. If he had gone, his coach would have been Bobby Knight, and one of his teammates would have been Coach K, would have been Mike Krzyzewski. So no regrets, but that's an interesting, what if? That's just an interesting path in life that he didn't take. Another interesting what if was there was a time where the NFL teams were looking for really good athletes, even if they had never played football. Kish didn't even have a football team back when he was in high school. It was too small. He got invited to go to a tryout to play in the NFL, to be a wide receiver for the Dallas Cowboys. I think he was he said he was uncomfortable with that. He had never played football. He said I wouldn't even know how to begin putting the uniform on. Not a regret, an interesting what if. So the final piece here I want to talk about is, so athletic achievements are just a part of my dad's involvement and what has been important to him in Mifflin County. When he was much younger, he visited in Philadelphia with his family. They were going to a Phillies game in Philadelphia, and he went to a place called Tendler's Tavern. Lou Tendler was a famous boxer in the 20s and 30s, and he had a sports tavern in Philadelphia that was famous for having photographs, memorabilia on the walls. They didn't have Applebee's, back then. It was a good Applebee's, and it was all over the place. This was a novel concept to put these things on the wall when he visited that. That made an impression on him. So years later, he was part of a business at hotels and a restaurant, and had an opportunity. It occurred to him, this is my chance to do what Lou Tendler did. We need something like this in Mifflin County. It didn't exist, and so began a family affair and a passion project for the next decade plus. So just to make a point here about integrating and honoring the fireplace in the Tall Tales Pub. I didn't mention the name, so that was Tall Tales Pub. Maybe I said that. The fireplace in Tall Tales Pub was from the old YMCA, Burnham YMCA. So you had people go in and take it down one stone at a time, record it, and then build it the exact same way in the pub. The flooring was also from the Burnham YMCA. It was being torn down at that time. So I was part of this group where we went in and we tore the floor up, did it in a way that we could reuse it in Tall Tales Pub. So the point is, he's been living this, honoring Mifflin County sports for decades. Thereafter, the next 10 years, he got in touch with hundreds and hundreds of Mifflin County athletes and their families, if they had been deceased, to get their stories and to memorialize their stories, to get photographs, memorabilia. And so I think the final tally was 394. There were 394 photographs that were, and it's like I said, this is a family affair. So my dad would write the captions, my mom would type them, print them, and have them framed. My siblings, we can attest there was an entire bedroom. There was a whole room in our house that was the Tall Tales Pub room that was filled with all of this memorabilia. So to get to the end of the story here, time goes on. Don't have the restaurant anymore, don't have the bar. And to my dad and others, this left a void. So what he and some others in this room did was to found the Mifflin County Hall of Fame. And I think, what a credit to them and just the spirit of athletics in Mifflin County that we're all here. That this is growing. I've been here for 3 of the 4 years, and I think this is bigger than it was in the first couple of years. So what a credit to their vision. And just to close with a couple things, and I think my dad does have a couple things he wants to say. But like I said at the beginning, everything for my dad was a competition. What is the next? He was never content. What is the next goal? What are we going to go after? His competition right now is his health. So he's going to take that on and he's going to compete. He would like me to say that he wants to challenge us to continue with this vision, and he thinks the next step could be a permanent location for the Mifflin County Hall of Fame. That could be a home for memorabilia, that could be a home for photographs, it could be a sort of a home for the soul of the spirit of Mifflin County sports. So finally, being here with all of you makes my dad very happy, fulfills him. Celebrating and honoring all of the athletes that have competed and achieved fulfills him, makes him happy. And so thank you for honoring him with this induction to be a part of that legacy. Thank you.
Okay, I brought the wireless mic back here to John. I know he did at least want to say thank you and maybe a couple words of his own. Stat man, you're up, baby.
Thank you, and a couple words of my own. Thank you very much. This is quite an honor. I'm losing my voice anyway for other reasons, but this is really put me to tears. We need things like this in Mifflin County. I really do believe it would be wonderful if we had a permanent location where we could have events and we could go get a bite and a nip and relax and enjoy things. But this is wonderful. I was also involved with Standard Steel, as you might know, in Birch Hill, and Candy and I were married in the next building, right? No? Reception. At the reception was it? What was it? At the church. You need a church for these things. Anyway, I love you all. Thank you so much for having this. And let's keep it going and make it bigger and better. Thank you.
Thanks, Seth, and thank you, John. Our next inductee will, as I said earlier, bring another Chief Logan Mingo into the hall. Putting together the videos is always an interesting experience for me because some of our inductees I know well, some depending on when I was in the county and when I wasn't, I don't know as well, so it's always a way for me to find out things about people. And with George, the thing that I found out was, what a journey. What a journey George Bone has had. Started at Highland Park, took him to Purdue, goes from Purdue to Vietnam. And then Vietnam, the University of South Dakota, and then full circle back here to coach for a long time. Mr. Moore, you ready? Our next inductee, George Touch Bone.
At Chief Logan High School, George Touch Bone won varsity letters in 4 sports and was the first Mingo to earn all-state recognition in 2 sports. football as a tackle and linebacker, and track and field in the discus and javelin. His senior year, that Mingo team went undefeated during the 1960-61 football season. George was named later that year to the West team for the first East versus West Pennsylvania Big 33 game in 1961, where his interception helped the West secure a 34-14 victory. In addition to most local All-Star teams, George was also named a Wigwam Wiseman All-American. After graduation, it was off to West Lafayette, Indiana, to suit up for the Purdue Boilermakers. Following a successful first season on the undefeated Purdue freshman squad, George served his country during the Vietnam War. Here at the Ranger NCO Academy, Bone graduated in the top 5 in his class, earning his sergeant stripe and serving during the first buildup of U.S. troops in Nam. George was part of an elite combat range squad. Following his decorated combat service, his return to Purdue was detoured to the University of South Dakota. George was awarded the team's Big Hitter Award during his time at USD. He was also part of a group of sophomores that helped the 1968 Coyote squad to a 9-1 record, losing only to highly ranked and eventual national champion North Dakota State. George and his teammates entered the University of South Dakota Sports Hall of Fame when the team was honored back in 2012. Since his playing days ended, Bone has coached various sports for 28 years in local schools. One of his stops was as the first wrestling coach at Rothrock, where Touch started the program from scratch, yet took 2 wrestlers to the state tournament. A leader both on and off the field, the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame salutes George Touch Bone.
I don't know if you noticed in that video, but we had a couple already Hall of Famers that appeared in that video. There was a shot, I believe, of young Dick Gingrich in the front row, and then a very young athlete you were working with named Wendy Boomer was also in that video there. George's daughter is with us tonight to present him into the Hall of Fame. Please welcome Carvel Birtsell.
So that was actually a treat for me. There were some photographs in that bio there that I have never seen, so I enjoyed that. And I also sent some extra photos to Roger that probably weren't exactly appropriate for this occasion, but they would have been enjoyable nonetheless, but that's okay. Maybe at a later time. All right, so again, it's so wonderful to see everybody, everybody's smiling faces. I've actually seen a few people tonight that I haven't seen since I graduated from Chief Logan High School just a few decades ago. We won't mention the year, Wendy. All right, but anyway, it was very nice. So I have the privilege to introduce our second inductee of the evening. All right, I can remember the first time that I met this person. All right, I have a great memory. All right, so it was a cold November evening. It was the first time I was ever focusing my eyes. And so as I look across the room, I see the man that's going to change my life forever, my keystone, my dad. So by the time I finally came around, obviously Dad was well on his way. All right, he was having an established renowned high school and college freshman football bio, earning him his noteworthy nickname, all right, Touch. All right, his college journey then, of course, as we already heard, took a pause as he served our great country during the Vietnam conflict. Dad was selected as a top basic trainee out of 400 recruits, 4 platoons out of the entire company. Right, earning top of his class in leadership training school, and then hand-selected to attend the non-commissioned officer training academy, again graduating in the top echelon. He is and has been a proud combat veteran and a proud Army Ranger. And of course, I'm very proud of him as well. Post-war afforded him the opportunity to resume college, where he continued to prove his football prowess. Upon returning home to Pennsylvania, Dad pursued a 28-year teaching and coaching career. Of course, I was fortunate enough to experience his know-how firsthand in the classroom, and training in the gym, as well as on the field. He is and has been a great athlete, educator, coach, and avid hunter. having bench pressed over 500 pounds, all right, an expert pistol marksman, in part due to his eagle eye vision, which a lot of his fellows out at camp would attest to, all right, and an ambidextrous ability to take down a buck with a compound bow. Not everybody can claim that fame. Right? So he is always encouraging, always mentoring. He is the consummate role model. May I proudly present to you my father, George Touchbone.
I have a loud voice, so I don't know if I need this. First of all, I want to thank my presenter, my daughter. She was a good athlete in her own right. Field hockey, track and field, and an excellent swimmer. She graduated magna cum laude from Arizona State. Very proud. I got shakes. This is tough. I also want to thank the Hall of Fame for nominating me and voting for me. I greatly honor that privilege of being here tonight. And I got my roots at Chief Logan High School. I was a four-sports individual: football, wrestling, track and field, and baseball. At that time, you could do both. But I want to start off by saying that all the honors that I received as a team, Chief Logan was a team. And one thing, you spell team, T-E-A-M. There's no I in team. Whatever you accomplish individually, the team had something to do with it. So in that approach, I'm going to mention my past coaches and my past players that I played with. And some of you will recognize the names, I'm sure. Coaches: Andy Roddy, Steve Pursuta. They came here and they just turned the program around. They went 9-1, 9-2, undefeated, then they left. But they did a good job. They brought football to Chief Logan High School. Players that I respect 100%, and I wouldn't be here with these honors without them. And I'm going to put a little note at the end of each one of them because it means something. Some are here, some are gone. Teammates: Henry Klein, deceased. Lester Murphy, deceased. Dick Cummings, Sam Betleon, Tommy Harpster, John Monsell, deceased. Terry Smith, deceased. Cubby Bear, deceased. John Zarkovich, Ned Strasser, Bill Couple, Mike Erb, Ron Armstrong, John Kipp, deceased. Ron Green, deceased. We're getting old, getting very old. Then comes the dream backfield. Starts with Dick Gingrich, a Hall of Famer in his own right. Gary Rao, deceased. Don DeArmond and Jack Crozier. This was a dream team, or backfield back in those days. And I'd like to show you the versatility of this backfield by telling you a little story about Chief Logan. We were undefeated. We had an undefeated team coming in, which was Milton. Dick Gingrich got a shoulder injury. he could not play quarterback. So next man up, Andy Roddy grabbed Gary Rao, who was deceased, but he was a tremendous athlete at North Carolina State. Set all kinds of rushing records along with Don DeArmond. Anyway, everybody was panicking that we're going to lose this game. But Rao stepped up tall, did his job. Final results, Chief Logan 27, Milton 0. How about that? It shows you that versatility and next man up. So we're very proud of that. From that, getting All-State, Big 33, I went to the Big 33. They started the East-West competition that year, first time. And some notable thing at the Big 33 contest, Joe Namath was on the West team, but he got injured, he couldn't play. Marty Schottenheimer, my roommate there, winningest NFL coach, one of the winningest NFL coaches around. And we won 34-14. So the West has been dominating Big 33 for a long time. On to college, I went to Purdue University, as stated. Played on an undefeated freshman team as a guard and middle linebacker. And the coach was pleased with what he saw. He was anticipating my sophomore year coming back. I wanted to do something else. I come from a patriotic family, and I wanted to serve the country. So I went to the military and got into the 16th Regiment Rangers, 1st Division, sent to Vietnam, a tour there, and coming out of Vietnam, well, I'm going to put my brothers in here first. I have 4 brothers and 1 sister. And I have a heroic mother who raised all of us by herself. My dad, KIA, Sicily, Invasion, WW2. My brother Bob, Dr. Robert Bone, past superintendent of Mifflin County Schools, U.S. Marine Corps. Brother Wayne, U.S. Army. Brother-in-law Sonny Fultz, U.S. Army Airborne. Son-in-law standing right back there. United States Navy Petty Officer, Bob Burksell. My nephew, Doug Bode, United States Army. I take that back. He slapped me in the face with that. U.S. Navy. Sorry. And my other nephew, United States Army. Now, that's a military background, and we're very proud of it. And I think everyone, like George Washington said years ago, anybody enjoys free speech and free democracy has a right in preserving it. How many people in here served in the military? Thank you for the service. And I want to thank my mom for raising us. I tell you what, 4 boys, 1 girl. She's a gold star mom. Okay, so I have notes all over the place, but I'm losing my place. So bear with me, please. Besides being a military family, we're a very athletic family. My brother, Dr. Robert Bone, got a scholarship to Tulsa, Oklahoma. Brother Wayne, a scholarship to Lycoming College. And of course, I had a scholarship to Purdue. And also I have another Dakota, which is unheard of. And I have a third brother, Jack, hard-nosed runner. He got injured, he got a shoulder separation. In those days, they didn't have the skill like they have today. And he had a scar about so wide across his shoulder, unbelievable. It knocked him out of competition. So, you get in trouble sometimes if you bring too many notes here. But basically, we're the home of the free because of the brave. Like these gentlemen raise your hands in the military. Everybody should serve in some capacity. That's my thinking. After military, I had the right to go back to Purdue. The coach was willing to take me back. But I got sidetracked to the University of South Dakota. My buddy, Jim Foster, an outstanding quarterback in his own right at Chief Logan, was going there on a scholarship. My ex-coach, Steve Pursuta, told him about me and my credentials. They invited me right away to come out, and I stayed there. So in our first year there, we were undefeated again on the junior high, or the JV varsity team. And on that team, there was 5 All-Americans from Wisconsin, Minnesota, of course, Pennsylvania. And that team would nurture itself into a top 5 nationally ranked team. And we went undefeated until we met a team that was undefeated, North Dakota State. And they beat us by a few points, and they went on to win the national title. So we're very proud of that, and from those statistics, we were all voted into the Schools Hall of Fame, which I'm very proud of as well. Now, started to coach after I left the university. And my coaching philosophy goes this way. First, you're a lady and you're a gentleman. Second, you're a scholar. Thirdly, you're an athlete. There are some coaches take it this way. As long as you're agile, mobile, and hostile, they'll take it. And that's football coach sometimes. But anyway, I had a 2-year coaching career in South Dakota and 28 years here in Mifflin County. And we have some very good teams out there as well as here. I started a wrestling program in South Dakota, sent 3 boys to the States, unheard of for a young fledgling program like we had. And I was voted the young, outstanding newcomer by the coaches in the conference as a winning team. Anyway, then I came back to Pennsylvania, went to Rose Rock, started wrestling at Rose Rock, and I'm very proud of this. At Rose Rock, from scratch, we started a program. It went a winning season in 5 years. We went to the Juniata JC's tournament in Juniata. We won that tournament twice with experienced team. Tough kids at Rose Rock. Ron Kennedy, Dale Grove, which is a product of Rose Rock. We went to Lewistown because they closed us down into consolidation. Someone thinks big is better, but it isn't. And Rich Gavin, Pete Kretz, Brad Knable, all these are awesome wrestlers. And they did well for very minimal experience. So I'm very proud of that. Anyway, moving on to why do we have a Hall of Fame? Benefits of having a Hall of Fame. Number 1, immortalizing athletic achievements like Ralph Bader. Nobody will ever equal what he did. Lewistown to Penn State to New York Jets, outstanding. Less than 0.5% will ever achieve that. Kevin Cody, back-to-back state champs in girls. You won't see that very often. Wrestling, Joe Heller, back-to-back state champ. Trent Heidlich, back-to-back state champ. Laura Close, back-to-back javelin, state champ. The man sitting right down in front of you here, he has records at Penn State, still hanging. Junior Powell, Dick Gingrich as well. Outstanding. So that's why you have a Hall of Fame. Second reason, preserving sports heritage. That's why you have a Hall of Fame. Number 3, to educate future generations of athletics. You tell the kids, hey, go out with something. Don't stand on the street corner. Get out there and perform. 5, creates community pride. Community pride. And also creates a healthier community through sports and recreation. So that's the reason. And I'd like to give a shout out to the Hall of Fame founders, and they were Kevin Cody, Brian Heggert, John Zimmerman, Tim Sear, Joel Diamond, Dave Semler, Tony Williams, Cher Harfter, Brett Treaster, Roger Hertel, who's a workhorse of the Hall of Fame. This man right here is unbelievable what he does with videos. So unbelievable. So, with that, stumbling around, but I'll tell you what, I feel very blessed, being honored, and I thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, George. Good time to stretch a little bit. Our next inductee, the first of the Warriors. She's not our first Indian Valley inductee, but that was the slogan her senior year. Buzz around Mifflin County. What will it be like if we mix Mingo Green with Kish Maroon? How is that going to work out, right? It worked out pretty good. Turned into red and black and a couple of awesome decades of Indian Valley High School. I had the great pleasure of coaching our next inductee for one season when that merger happened. I had the displeasure of coaching against her for 3 years when Chief Logan kicked our butts. Stop smiling over there, Bill. When they kicked our butts, and Annette was a big part of that. And that's simply in that year, I found very quickly, and I can say this looking at my 3 decades, one of the hardest working kids I've ever seen. You never heard her say a word. But I don't care if it was a summer league game at the Y, practice, non-league game, scrimmage, pickup game at the YMCA, she was going to bring it. And that was one of those kids who would have said, there's a reason they're keeping score up there. And it's because I am a competitor and I want to win. When I saw Annette tonight, I said, you know what I remember most is, you just were a worker. You didn't really say anything. And she said, I have a question about tonight. I said, what's that? She goes, well, do I have to give a speech? Do I have to say anything? And I said, well, that's tradition that you come up and you have something to say. And she said, well, if you think I didn't talk much back then, just wait and see how short this acceptance speech is tonight. So we'll see how that goes. Our next inductee, Annette Hoffman.
Annette Hoffman was a three-sport high school letter winner in field hockey, basketball, and softball at both Chief Logan and the newly formed Indian Valley High School. While she was a dominant force in all three sports, there was no question that basketball would be her ticket at the next level. After graduating as a 1,000-plus point scorer in 1989 from Indian Valley, Annette continued her stellar athletic career at nearby Juniata College. Her numbers on the court in high school were good, but what would follow at Juniata was truly remarkable. At the time of her eventual induction into the Juniata College Sports Hall of Fame, Annette held virtually every scoring record for the Juniata College women's basketball program. Her career total of 2,269 points at the time was over 1,000 points more than the next closest athlete. She averaged 24.1 points per game for her career. She owns the record for most points as a freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior, with her junior season being her best with 646 points. Her single-game record of 49 points against Elizabethtown came only a week after setting the single-game road record of 47 at Washington Jefferson. She scored 10 or more points 78 times, 30 or more points 11 times, and topped the 40-point mark on 4 occasions. Annette averaged a double-double in points and rebounds in both her junior and senior year. She was the Middle Atlantic Conference Northwest Player of the Year her final 3 seasons, as she led the conference in all 3 years in scoring. She earned all-district status 3 times, while also receiving honorable mention for the 1992-93 Division III Kodak All-American team. Annette was honored with the Beggarstock Award as Juniata's top female athlete following her senior year. By the way, she also spent 3 years on the softball team, earning a total of 7 letters during her college experience. Her numbers speak for themselves, and tonight, the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame is proud to welcome Annette Hoffman.
Annette is back with us, of course, tonight. Here to present her for induction is her coach from Juniata College, who I'm sure was very happy when Annette decided to go there. One last thing for me, I will never forget, we brought the 2 schools together, Kish and Chief Logan, and so we took the kids to Susquehanna that summer to team camp. And the head coach at Susquehanna, who some of you may remember, his name was Mark Rebar. And when we left that camp, he came up to me and he said, I gotta have that kid. I found out a couple weeks later that he went to the powers that be at Susquehanna and said, listen, she's either gonna score 25 points a night for us, or 20-some points a night against us. Well, Susquehanna's loss was Juniata's gain, that's for sure. And here to present Annette for induction, Mr. Stan Risser.
Good evening. How can I put this, Annette? Nancy Zingham and Julie George would be proud. They would be proud. For those of you who don't know who those 2 people were, they were 2 of the staples at Juniata College in the late 70s. And if you asked Annette, and most of her teammates, she would probably say, I am sick of hearing about those people, Coach. All you ever do is bring up those 2 names. Well, there was a reason. There was a method to my madness, why that was. It was to make Annette an even better player than she was for 4 years there, and to rally the troops around her that played with her for 3 or 4 years. I think it's safe to say at this time that Nancy and Julie would now be willing to pass the gauntlet down to you. Down to you. A once wise person said that if it isn't broke, don't try to fix it. I found out that early at Juniata College when I first ran into this 5'11" string bean athlete called Emma. For shortness, let's just call her number 42. In fact, the first time I met her, she didn't meet me. I was there working late, and I was just the assistant then, early in the year, prior to the start of the season. Prior to the start of practice, we were doing workouts. And it was late one night, and I was just about ready to wrap things up. Coach Quinn, who was then the head coach, briefly, for about 2 or 3 weeks into my tenure, was ready to leave. And I was walking out to grab a Coke and head home to Martinsburg, my hometown, and I heard the pounding of a basketball in the gym. And I wondered, who in the devil would be there at 9:30 at night? I thought, must be a pickup game. Must be some of the guys. I walked in on the balcony and looked, and there was this 5'11" girl working on her game. And I mean working on her game. For such a thing as playing one-on-none, Annette was doing that. She would work hard, shooting a three, driving the ball to the hole, building up a lather, and when she was fully exhausted, I watched her go to the foul line and shoot foul shots. And Lord knows if she missed one, she was back running again, over and over and over again, until she didn't. I was about ready to leave, and one of the custodians come in and said, "Are you Coach Risser?" And I said, "Yes." And he said to me, "What do you think of your new franchise?" And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Get used to it. She'll be here tomorrow, the next day after that, when the season's over." He said, "Is there any way you can talk her into coming in some other time other than on my shift?" Because I'm tired of holding up the gym long enough and keeping the lights on for her. And I said, "I'll tell you what I'll do." I said, "You come to me, if this is true, you come to me the first time she does not show up 2 nights in a row and let me know, and we'll make some arrangements." Well, this young man never showed up to me. Never. That just speaks volumes of what Annette was for Juniata and how she was as an athlete. There's no secrets to her success. Drill and repetition, constantly trying to be better. It was almost as though she was afraid someone was going to lose her, she was going to lose her job. You saw the accolades just like I did. You read them in the program. How can anybody think that you were going to lose your job with the way she performed for 4 years? I only wish that I'd have been there for all 4 years and not just the final 2. That's the one disappointment that I had. And she did this with 2 entirely different teams. Her junior year, we had some leadership. They were good, but they weren't great. We had 3 senior captains that dominated in their own right. We had the point guard I would kill and die for. We had a defensive specialist. And we had a shooting guard who every time they tried to double down on Annette, left her open, and you know what the results would be. Then her senior year, the worst thing that I thought could happen is they were gone. And now Annette was going to have to pick up the pieces all by herself. Instead, I made it my business to bring in 7 or 8 new freshmen her senior year who played and wanted to go to Juniata, not for the academics, God forbid, not for the price, God forbid again, but for the privilege and opportunity to play with Annette, with number 42. Every time we won a game for 2 years, my potential recruits would get a letter from Juniata College with highlights 9 times out of 10, Annette on the picture or Annette in the article saying how great this team of destiny was that we had established her junior year. And every one of them, from their parents down to themselves, said they were looking forward to coming to Juniata to have the opportunity to play with number 42. It was an easy recruiting tool, believe me, very easy recruiting tool. And I thank my lucky stars that I was a part of it. I'm not going to hold you up any longer. It's a long night. I only want to say one thing, and I'd be remiss if I didn't. My wife would disown me. I would like all the ladies in this group right now, if you are a mother, to please stand up. And men, give them a round of applause. In case you forgot, tomorrow is Mother's Day. And in conclusion, and that put Juniata College on the map. One final stat, which was not in your handbook, was free throw shooting. For 2 years, her junior year and her senior year, Juniata College led the nation in Division III in free throw shooting percentage. Think about that. Over 320 Division III schools. And we not only did it, I should say, they not only did it once, they did it back-to-back years. Back-to-back years. The culmination of those awards were felt down the stretch her senior year when we played a home game with Waynesburg. Waynesburg College was one heck of a team. I know because the first time I ever grabbed the bull by the horns and tried to coach the Juniata women the year before, they blitzed us. I think the score was something like 91 to 57. And at that time I thought, I don't know if I'm ready for this now, coaching high school. But with the cooperation and support of people like Annette, we made a run at it. We won 12 in a row her junior year. We came within a bucket of reaching the MAC finals. And the following year, I'm sure she probably had on her calendar, Waynesburg. We go. Well, I'll tell you what. That night, we may have only won by a point. But the team shot 30 of 31 on the foul line in a winning effort. And Annette didn't surprise me in the least. She was 19 for 19 from the foul line. If that's not impressive, and her stats aren't impressive, then I don't know why we're here. At this time, and I promised you I'd only talk 2 or 3 minutes, because I know you wanted to talk forever. At this time, I want to introduce to you my Larry Bird for 2 years, Annette Hoffman.
I just want to thank Coach Rister for introducing me tonight. This is such a pleasure. I also want to thank those who came out to support me tonight and all those who have stood behind me and supported me all the time throughout my athletic careers. I'm truly honored to be part of this Hall of Fame, so I want to thank the committee as well. So thank you so much. I appreciate this.
She wasn't joking. Our next inductee I first met when I was broadcasting at WCHX quite a while ago. When he came back to our area to coach football at his alma mater at Lewistown High School. I was not aware of a lot about Jet's career. Again, my time frame with his. But being a broadcaster, and when you work for Dave Semler, you had to be prepared, which I did. So I had to do some research, and wow, I was blown away at what I read. So putting the video together, I had to stop by Jet's house and pick up, which I've done with almost everybody that was inducted tonight, or they emailed me pictures and memorabilia. But the one thing that struck me the most that I never knew about Jet was how important family is to this guy. He talked about his parents to me a lot, nothing really about to do with tonight, and his family members, which I think speaks volumes. Our next presenter, Mr. Moore, are we good? John Jet Johnston.
John Jet Johnston's love of sports started at an early age. His father, Harry, was the head football and baseball coach for the Steamrollers at Steel High. Growing up on both the gridiron and the diamond, it was no surprise that Johnston would go on to excel in both sports. At Lewistown High School, John earned all-state football honors as a junior and senior while establishing the Panther all-time rushing record of 2,083 yards. He was selected to the 1968 Pennsylvania Big 33 team and recognized as a Prep All-American. His talents on the baseball field did not go unnoticed either, as John turned down an offer from the Pittsburgh Pirates to attend Duke University, where he earned 6 varsity letters, 2 on football and 4 in baseball. After selection to the All-Atlantic Coast Conference freshman football team and missing his sophomore season due to illness, John returned for 2 outstanding seasons. As a senior, he was the second leading ball carrier for the Blue Devils, averaging nearly 4 yards per carry and a 10.5-yard average per reception, in an era when the forward pass was not the dominant weapon as it is today. John also averaged over 15 yards as a kickoff returner. His career-high 123-yard effort on 24 carries came in a winning effort against West Virginia. As an outfielder under Hall of Fame coach Enos Slaughter, John finished in the top 10 among ACC hitters for average in 1972. Following graduation, Johnston was a graduate assistant at Duke and later an assistant on the staff of Joe Paterno for 3 seasons, including the 1982 Penn State National Championship season. He was a head coach at Lewistown area, Harrisburg, CD East, and Reading High Schools, and led Union High School in New Jersey to a state runner-up finish and a top 20 ranking by USA Today. Having coached in the 1982 Big 33 game, he is also a member of the Pennsylvania Football Coaches Association Big 33 Hall of Fame. A true Duke Blue Devil through and through, the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame welcomes the Jet, John Johnston.
You know, of all the pictures that I've gotten in the 4 years of doing this, that picture of Jet with Joe here, and the look on your face is kind of like, I don't know what you were thinking, but it sort of looked like, are you sure we want to do this, Coach? I'd like to know the story behind that. Here to present Jet to the Hall tonight, no stranger to our Hall as he was here once before, to present Fred Fisher back in 2021, and certainly no stranger to Penn State fans. Please welcome back Mr. Tim Curley.
Thank you very much, Roger, and those videos were great, aren't they? I really enjoyed them, and Jet, those sideburns, where did you get those sideburns? Elvis. My goodness, it's very impressive. But congratulations to all the inductees here tonight, and I particularly would like to recognize John Zimmerman. I don't know if John's still here or not, but you know, every organization like this needs a champion to get it started. And John was that guy that was the champion, the guy that was the doer. to make this all possible. And Mifflin County has such a rich history and tradition of great sports, and the fact that we can celebrate it is just a wonderful thing. So congratulations to the board, to Tim, and to all of you on what you're doing. I'd like to introduce the table that I was at here. John's pride and joy, his family, as was mentioned earlier, that Roger mentioned. His daughter Christine is here. She's a high school guidance counselor at the junior high and in the Lewistown School District. And she has 2 kids that are here. John's 2 grandchildren. Danielle, who's a senior at Lewistown, and she'll be going to Penn State this coming fall. And we look forward to having her join the Nittany Lions, and hopefully we can give her a national championship season here, her freshman year. Also, her boyfriend Ty is here. He's going to Penn State Altoona, so we got the Nittany Lions well represented here. Grandson Luke. Luke is quite an athlete himself. He's the real athlete of the family, and we look forward to maybe 20 years from now, Luke, inducting you into the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame. I'd also like to introduce one of the legendary coaches and one of the legendary Penn State football players, Gary Klingon-Smith, and he's here with his wife, Sarah. I'm honored to be here to introduce Jed Johnston. It's just, as you can see from his accolades, just a tremendous career he's had, very worthy of this award, and I'm just thrilled that I could be here tonight to just say a few words about him. Some of you are probably wondering, how did he get the name Jet? And I'll tell you a little story about that. So when Jet went to Duke University, his teammates just recognized Jet as his tremendous speed that he had. He was an elusive runner. He had tremendous speed. He was one of these guys that hurdled over the defenders when they came up to tackle him. He was Saquon Barkley before Saquon Barkley, okay? And I know that his grandson is probably wondering, well, did Jet ever jump backwards and hurdle somebody like Saquon did? And I'm here to tell you, Luke, the answer to that is no, okay? Your grandfather was very good, but he wasn't Saquon good, okay? But I had the opportunity to meet Jet when, in the fall of 1978, I had just gotten appointed to serve as kind of the recruiting coordinator for Penn State football, and Coach Paterno asked me to take on that responsibility, and there was one caveat. I would be on the road the entire time, the whole fall season. He said, go over to Fleet Operations, get a car, and I don't want to see you until December. And so I just went on the road literally for 5 months. I never came back to campus. I was just in this beat up old Fleet car, driving from school to school, to practice, trying to find the best players we could for Penn State football. The first day after I got that appointment, I get my list of the top players in the country and who I should go see. And the number 1 player on that list was a gentleman by the name of Albert Choo Choo Chambers from Harrisburg High School. And I thought, oh my goodness, this is great. We have the best player in the country just an hour and a half down the road. And I said to myself, we better get this guy, or I probably won't be the recruiting coordinator very long. So I said, well, I better get to know the high school coach pretty well and make sure that he was in my corner to make sure he came to Penn State. So I looked him up and I found this guy's name, John Johnston. So I drove down to Harrisburg High School and I got to know John Johnston. That was before he was Jet Johnston. And I got to tell you, I was so impressed with what I saw. His ability to bring that community together. They had a very tough culture and environment there before Jet got there. But when I observed Jet in practice and in the school, it was amazing. Everybody had great discipline. The kids responded really well, and I was super impressed. Also, I was really impressed with Choo Choo Chambers. And I'll tell you, I had never seen a player like Choo Choo. He was amazing. You know, Michael Parsons was from Harrisburg, but this guy was the real deal, and I think he was in the same category as Michael Parsons. So I felt a real responsibility that we had to get this guy at Penn State, and John Johnston was going to help us get that job done. Well, fast forward, after I sucked up to John Johnston for about 5 months, decision time came, and Choo Choo Chambers ended up at the University of Arizona. And I thought I was never going to work at Penn State again. But out of the whole thing, I ended up gaining a lifelong friend in John Johnston, and I'm forever grateful for that. Now, the other part of that story is Choo Choo was an outstanding baseball player, and he ended up being the #1 draft pick in the Major League Baseball draft and signed with the Seattle Mariners. And I felt very relieved after he decided to go pro, and I kept my job at Penn State. So that was really important. I did my homework on Jet. He had an outstanding career, as you saw by the video. I won't go over all of that. But when Jet was at Duke University, he was an outstanding running back, as we mentioned. And just to show you the type of company that Jet was in when he played college ball, here's a stat that will give you an idea just what kind of player he was. On October 31st, 1971, Penn State beat West Virginia 35-14, and Franco Harris rushed for 83 yards, and Lydell Mitchell, 2 of the greatest players in Penn State history. He was the leading rusher with 128 yards on 24 carries. The very following week, Duke University beat West Virginia, the very same team, 31-15. And Duke's Steve Jones, not our Steve Jones. Steve Jones was a great player at Duke University and went on to have a great NFL career. Rushed for 96 yards. And then Jet Johnston was the leading rusher with 123 yards on 23 carries. Not bad company to be in with Franco, Lydell, and Steve Jones. He was just a tremendous player. To me, Jet went on to have a great college or high school coaching career. He coached 23 years, Pennsylvania Coaches Hall of Fame, Hall of Famer. Coached in some of the tough inner city high schools, and just had an impressive career every stop that he went. Many of the great players in the country he coached. Some of the very top coaches went to his high schools, wanted to get to know Jet and recruit his players because they were disciplined, they were tough, they knew how to play, and they cared about school, and they were good citizens. And it was a real credit to John and his coaching ability. To me, the greatest coaches are the greatest teachers, and John really took his teaching career very seriously, and he was an outstanding teacher as well. And I can tell you that I'm very proud. He coached 25 years at our Penn State summer camp, and really was very well respected with our Penn State staff. I also got reunited with him at Penn State. He coached 3 years at Penn State under Coach Paterno. In 1982, he coached the outside linebackers on our national championship team. 83, he coached the DBs. And then in 84, he coached the tight ends. And he was an outstanding coach and recruiter at Penn State. I can tell you that I have such great respect for him. And he is a great friend. And even though I didn't get Choo Choo Chambers, I got a friend for a lifetime, and I value that greatly. If World War III started tomorrow, and it very well could, in this environment that we're in today, I would want Jet Johnston in my foxhole. I would trust him to have my back, and without any doubt, he would be there for me. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome and congratulations on Jet Johnson's induction into the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame.
Okay, you asked the question, what was I doing with the turnout? Yeah. Well, that was in '84, and I used to signal the formations, and I coached the tight ends. And John Waller, we were getting ready to substitute him in, and I'm trying to wait for Paterno to call to play in the formation. So that was the look. Anyway, touch. I won't lose my notes, it's only one paper. Anyway, I want to say, John Zimmerman, I love you. And Brian Carson, I love you too. You're in my prayers. Also, I'd like to congratulate all the Hall of Fame inductees today. It's a great honor for me to be inducted into the Hall of Fame, and I'd like to thank the Hall of Fame committee and the members for this honor. I was blessed with great parents. My dad taught me mental toughness and a blue-collar work ethic. He was a coach. He coached 3 sports. My mother taught me perseverance, and I have to tell you about my mother. Born in 1920, when she was 12, she lost her mother, big Italian family. Had to quit school after 8th grade. Cleaned houses in the Great Depression. When I went away to college, she was 50. She wanted to learn how to paint. My parents were living in New Jersey then. She was working at Lockheed Electronics on the assembly line. So she went to the local high school and got a few painting lessons and showed some potential. And they said, why don't you go to the Duke School of Art in Plainfield? Well, the Duke School of Art, their instructors were a lot of them were from New York City and world-renowned artists. 50 years old. She became a fabulous artist. She started when she was 50. When she was 70 years old, she called and she said, why don't you come down this weekend? We're having an art show. It's okay. So we go down, we go to this school. There she is in cap and gown. She graduated with a Bachelor of Fine Arts. What woman, born in 1920, starts going to school when she was 50? And we didn't even know she was doing this. She just loved it. She kept going back. But perseverance. I had great teammates in high school, and one of them sitting here today, Bob Conrad, number 61. He was a co-captain with me in high school. He had a great career as a football player at Richmond and was an all-conference player. I had great teammates at Duke. I also had great coaches at Duke that inspired me. I received a world-class education, both academically and athletically at Duke. There's something special about Duke. It's the greatest decision I ever made, and I'm proud to be part of the Duke Brotherhood. You know, a lot of people went to Duke to get lawyers, dollars, businessmen. My dad was a coach. I always knew I wanted to be a coach. I majored in coaching at Duke. I just was a sponge. I grew up in Steel High football for 9 years. My dad was the coach there. He taught football. He coached championship teams in football, baseball, and basketball. Steel High played in the Central Penn back then. That was like a Class A team playing against 5A teams. It was a tiny school. My dad was a playground supervisor in the summertime. We were the only two white people on the playground. So I grew up colorblind. My favorite player when I was a little kid was number 44, Ernie Davis, Syracuse University, the first black Heisman Trophy winner. Steelman was a blue-collar, multicultural community. I think it had an effect on me in the long run and in my career. When I was in 4th grade, my dad took a job in Manheim Central High School, out on the playground, batting left-handed. I drove the ball deep down the right field foul line. It crashed through the 5th grade classroom window. The principal grabbed me and rushed me out to the room. There was glass all over the teacher's desk, the student's desk, the chalk ledge, all over the floor, and the students they didn't move. Thank God nobody got hurt. The next day, my 4th grade teacher said to me, she says, I've been working here 20 years. I've never seen anybody hit a ball like that. I think someday you're going to be playing Major League Baseball. Well, in 9th grade, all the way through my senior year, I started every single varsity baseball game. And when I was a senior, at the end of the season, the Pittsburgh Pirates called my dad. They wanted to sign me. Anyway, I had a scholarship to Duke, so that's where I was headed. The first baseball practice I had at Duke University, Tom Butters was a pitcher, actually even pitcher of the Pirates. He said to me after practice, you got a major league swing. And I just kind of smiled at him. He says, no, you got a major league swing. He says, I pitched against guys in the major leagues that don't swing as well as you. Well, my first game I started as a freshman on the Duke baseball team was against the Durham Bulls. They were affiliated with the Philadelphia Phillies. We played at their stadium, the iconic Durham Athletic Park. If you saw Bull Durham, that was the stadium. It was a close game. They had 4 hits, we had 4 hits. They beat us 2-1. I went 1 for 3, and I hit a 420-foot shot off the center field wall. After the game, Coach Butters said to me, I told you you had a major league swing. My football teammates for several years said to me, why are you playing 2 sports? You could be going to the beach every weekend and partying. And I said, you don't understand. I didn't come to Duke. I came to Duke to play ball, not drink beer and party. My last few years, my coach was a Hall of Famer, Enos Country Slaughter. He played 19 years in the majors. He had a 300 average. He played 13 years with the Cardinals and Stan Musial, 6 years with the Yankees with Roger Maris, Mickey Mantle, and Yogi Berra, and Whitey Ford, and Casey Stengel. I mean, he had so many stories I could listen to all night long. And he was a country boy from North Carolina, so he was pretty comical. We used to sit on the bus when we traveled and play hearts with the trainer and one of the other teammates. We used to go into D.C. and play Maryland on Saturdays. So if the Senators were playing Friday night, we would stop and see a game. And one Friday night, the Senators were playing, and Enos took me with him into the Senators clubhouse, and I met Ted Williams, greatest hitter in baseball. So it was an amazing journey. When I was a senior, before my junior year in high school, I was playing Twilight League baseball against college students, with college students and adults. I got hit flush in the eye with a baseball. I still remember that sound, that pop. I went down, the pain was unbearable. I couldn't see, I was blind. Somehow they put me in the back of somebody's car and rushed me to the hospital. In the emergency room, I heard my dad's voice. He says, "Johnny, you're going to be okay." I said, "Dad, tell him to give me something for the pain." I spent over a week in the hospital. I was very fragile. I lost my place touch. I only have one piece of paper. I didn't have all those scars. I was heavily sedated. I don't remember ever even seeing my parents in the hospital. To show you how fragile I was, when they released me after a week or 9 days, they took me home in an ambulance. They carried me on a stretcher into my house. We went to see the eye specialist. He says, "My playing days are over." The pressure in my eye was dangerously too high. After about a month, things started to improve a little bit with some meeting with the doctors. And 3 months later, after missing the first 3 games of my junior year in high school, I went on a tear. Playing football, I led our team in rushing. It was unanimous pick all conference. And I was 13 All-State. My senior year, more of the same, All-State, All-American. I was getting recruited by all the big-time schools. I met with Coach Paterno. I flew up to Syracuse in December. It was snowing. I had dinner with Ben Schwartzwalder, the legendary coach, and Coach Jim Brown, and Ernie Davis, my idol. Later on, I flew out to Purdue University. I met Leroy Keys. He was a runner-up to the Heisman Trophy that year to O.J. Simpson. It was so cold and windy out of Purdue, I thought my pants were going to blow off. I didn't think that would be a good place to play baseball. January, I flew to Duke. It was 65 and sunny. Chuck Daly and U.B. Brown spent an hour showing me around Cameron Indoor Stadium. So you basketball group is out there should know who U.B. Brown is, and Chuck Daly. They both coached in the NBA later and were both inducted into the Hall of Fame. And every Sunday at 12 o'clock I used to go to Mass downtown Durham and sit in the balcony next to U.B. Brown. I don't know if any of you ever got to hear him speak in clinics, but he was a character. Turning to football, I watched my dad coach football. Before I ever played the game, he told me to get my pad level down, run downhill, and if anybody tries to tackle you, you punish them and run over them. And that's how I played. My special guest, Gary Klingensmith, he was a downhill runner. We went north. We didn't go east and west. We went downhill and north. In football, my freshman year, I was all conferences, ACC tailback. That spring, I was running first team with the varsity. Never really thought much about it, but the reason I was in that position wasn't because of my running ability and my power, it was because I could catch a football. We had a really great quarterback that got drafted in the 5th round that year, Leo Hart, Anyone on the back that could block, that could run, but most importantly could catch the ball coming out of the backfield. Well, I didn't last too long. I got sick. I ended up in the Duke Medical Center. I lost a lot of weight, and I couldn't even finish practice. Fast forward to the next year of preseason practice. The defensive back coach wanted to do tackling drills live, so I was the only running back recruited to do the drill. Well, Gary, let me tell you, I wasn't going to be a tackling dummy. I took them on one by one and ran over everybody. Tom Harp, the head coach, came up to me and smiled and said, "You like to run with the ball, don't you?" I said, "Yeah." A couple weeks later, Monday night, under the lights, it's the toilet bowl. You ever have a toilet bowl at Penn State, Gary? Well, toilet bowl, if you didn't play in the game on Saturday, Monday night under the lights, you played in the toilet bowl. Well, that was my chance to show my toughness and my talent. I can remember after the toilet bowl that night, walking up through the stadium, up the tunnel, a lot of coaches complimented me on how well I did. The very next day, when I opened my locker, I found a blue jersey. A blue jersey meant I got promoted to the first team. And the first game I started was against Clemson at Death Valley. I have a lot of rings. I have my class ring from Duke University. I have my Letterman's ring from Duke University. I have my Penn State National Championship ring. I have my Coach's Hall of Fame ring. But the ring that I cherish the most is this gold wedding band, my father's. He wore this ring when he was a pilot, flying a B-26 in World War II, 63 missions. He wore this ring when I was born. He wore this ring in all the championship teams he coached. He wore this ring when he watched me play ball. He wore this ring when he watched me. He wore this ring the last day I shook his hand before he passed away suddenly the next day. So of all the rings I have, this is the ring that means the most. Thank you very much. As Bill Belichick would say, on to Cincinnati. Thank you, Jed. Our next inductee, another Lewistown Panther, coming into the hall. Her career reminds me a lot of Annette, where great things in high school, but had no idea what was going to happen next. And when this young lady went to Susquehanna, a lot of things happened. Emily Lepley today is now Emily Lepley Shank. She married a young man who I can vouch for. He was a student of mine during that time period, and they are now married with 3 lovely children. Our next inductee, from Lewistown, Emily Lepley.
At Lewistown Area High School, Emily Lepley was a 6-time District 6 champion, once in the 400-meter run, twice in the 300-meter hurdles, and 3 times in the 100-meter hurdles, sweeping all 3 events in 2003. During that 2003 senior year, she was the runner-up at the PIAA Indoor Championships in the 60-meter hurdles She followed with 2 trips to the medal stand at the 2003 PIAA Outdoor Championships, including placing 6th in the 300-meter hurdles and being crowned state champion in the 100-meter hurdles, finishing the season undefeated in that event. She holds the all-time Lewistown area high school records in both the 100 and 300-meter hurdles and is still to this day the current Mifflin County record holder in those events. Emily was an 8-time All-American hurdler when she moved on to Susquehanna University and remains one of the winningest athletes in the university's track program that they have ever produced. She won 3 Middle-Atlantic Conference titles in the indoor 55-meter hurdles and was a 3-time MAC outdoor champion in both the 100 and 400-meter hurdles. At the time of her 2003 induction into the Susquehanna University Sports Hall of Fame, she held program indoor records in the 400-meter dash, 55-meter hurdles, 60-meter hurdles, and her outdoor records included the 400-meter dash, 100-meter hurdles, and 400-meter hurdles. Emily was named the 2005 NCAA Mideast Regional Athlete of the Year after winning the NCAA Division III championship in the 400-meter hurdles. After college, Emily spent some time coaching track back at her alma mater at Lewistown High School. But since the birth of her 3 children, Kenneth, Grant, and Adeline, she enjoys watching them compete in their own sports of choice. With her credentials, Emily was an easy choice for us tonight. One of the most decorated track athletes in our county's history, the Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame welcomes Emily Lepley.
Emily is being presented tonight by her high school coach, who, by the way, I can attest to this. If you like honey, okay, and you like local products, this guy does up some really nice honey, so you can speak to him afterwards about that. Please welcome her coach, her high school coach, who, by the way, knows a little bit about track and field too. Not only did he coach Lewistown back then, still to this day, every day after school, he's with the athletes at Mifflin County High School working on track and field. Please welcome Dick Yerrick.
Good evening. Share a few memories of Emily when she was in high school track team. When she first came into the team, I fell in love with her right away. She had speed, and she just didn't have. She wasn't just fast. She had speed, and she could dress out from the 100 out the 800-meter run. And when she was on the team, the first year they went undefeated in dual meets and won the league. Well, the league championship was coming up, and her mother gave me a surprise, getting ready for the meet. Her mother calls me 2 days before and tells me Emily won't be going. She's our top point getter. And she tells me she won't be going. And I asked her why, and she said she has a practice for a rehearsal for a piano recital. Now, in my small little world, a practice for a rehearsal for a piano recital would be the same as somebody calling Coach Sanderson and telling him Mitchell Nesselbrink won't be going to the Big Tens. Anyway, we got that straightened out. And her mother, beyond that, she became one of the most important people for what success I had at Lewistown, for everything she did for the teams and myself. Emily, she never complained about any event I put her in. During the time she ran the 100 meters, the 200 meters, the 400 meters. She ran both three relays, the 4x1, the 4x4, the 4x8, and she ran the 100 and the 300 hurdles throughout her career with us. She had a record of just dual meet wins. She ran 115 races and won 110 of them. I mean, she's been an athlete, all. We went to Altoona her junior year, and the coach stopped me after the meet, and he said, I saw some things with her over the years, but I never thought she could put something like this together. He said she ran 100-meter hurdles, picked up a glass of water. He said, and I saw her running back to the starting line, and there's no way she could run the 100 hurdles and the 100 meters back to back. She did, won them both, and he said, and that's where we lost the meet. But she did all that. Anyway, she comes to me, end of her junior year. She finished 10th in the state and wanted to know, she said, I will do anything to get a medal to states. She said, what can I do? So we sat down, we talked about it. I said, you're going to have to put a couple of hours a day into hurdling. I said, you're good, but you aren't good enough to get a medal yet. I said, you have to put a couple hours a day in to sharpen your skills. I said, you're going to have to get in the weight room and put some muscle on and some weight. She weighed 110 to 115 pounds. She was fast enough, but she wasn't strong enough yet to get a medal. So we worked, she asked me if I'd train with her. So we worked through the summer and the fall, 3-4 days a week, a couple hours at a time. And one time she asked me, she said, am I good enough now to get a medal? And I said, yeah, you are. She said, you think I can win the states? Well, that's a big step from getting placed in the top 8 to be the very best hurdler in Pennsylvania. And I said, well, you're going to have to change your goal now. Your goal can't be to get a medal. Now your goal has to be to win the state championships, and everything has to go into that. Well, she did. And while we know the results. Now, while she was training, she wasn't dating anybody, and I was worried about that. I was afraid maybe she'd find somebody that would want to take time away from her for him, be a little selfish and take the time off of her goal. So, but I knew the perfect guy for her. He lived next door to me. But they had nothing in common. Cell phones at that time weren't cell phones like they were now. You couldn't, Facebook wasn't there, and you couldn't just Google somebody and know everything about them. He went to Indian Valley, she went to Lewistown. He wrestled, she ran track. He liked to hunt and fish, and as we know, she played the piano. And she was a year older than him, and older girls didn't date younger guys in high school. I didn't know how to get them together. Then one day, he and his dad were putting shingles on the roof, and it was a hot summer day, and he was working without a shirt on. I thought this would be a good time for an introduction. So I called Emily and I said, come on, I want to show you something. She came out and she said, what is it? And I said, see a guy on the roof? I said, that's who you're dating. Well, a picture's worth 1,000 words. And unlike her mother, she could see what she was looking at. Anyway, we became closer than athlete and coach. We became friends, and she became like a daughter to me. Matter of fact, to the day, my daughter and her refer to each other jokingly as sisters. And anyway, I've been proud of everything you've ever done, Emily, and I'm proud tonight to present to you.
Although that is true, he stole some of my speech, but I'll tell my version. But I would like to start by saying thank you to all of the Hall of Fame Board of Directors, the committee members, the voters, everybody who is in attendance, those who catered and served the food and set up. This is truly a special event for all of us. And Mitchell Messenbrink, I know he had to leave, but he reminded us to just be grateful, and I think that's special. So, we were asked in our speech guidelines to kind of focus not on our statistics, but on memories and relationships that were special to us. So over the past couple of weeks, that's what I did. I wanted to spend some time thinking about memories that were special to me and relationships. And I'm just going to share a few of those with you. Otherwise, I would be up here for a very long time. So I will start with my brother, who reminded me just this night how special I am to him that he's here, because there's also a race in Port Royal that he couldn't get to. So thank you, Bobby. But other than that, he was always there to remind me to lean at the finish, and that is simple yet very effective advice, and came in handy quite a few times for me. I also thought back to my time at Lewistown Area High School, and of course Vicki Henry came to mind. She never let an athlete go to a championship without a carefully curated homemade goodie bag. And if you were at Lewistown during that time, I'm sure you know what I mean. I remembered Vance Varner and Ed Curry, who in their freshly pressed suits as administrators got down on their hands and knees and let me hurdle over them during my first trip to States. There was also Larry at the fitness center, where Dick and I spent our mornings lifting, who hung up my state champion photo finish after I had won that year. There was my mom, who drove to the airport at 6 a.m. in 2005 in her pajamas, because why would you need your license to get on a flight in 2005 to fly anywhere? But she made it in time, and that was the year that I won nationals. She came running in her pajamas and her messy hair, and I got my license. There were the Borough guys, who hung my photo over the time clock during my summer job after winning nationals. The Sentinel, who published an article written by Kelly Altieri about perseverance and dedication when I was struggling with giving up soccer and powder puff football my senior year. To the late Jim Taylor, also a Lewistown native, who left his mark on Susquehanna athletics by reminding us that today is always a great day to get better. To all of the people who sent cutouts of Sentinel articles, who even offered a passing congratulations or acknowledgement, those are the things that truly make the statistics worth it. But that is all to say that there would be no statistics or memories for me if it weren't for Dick Yerrick, or Poppy Rick as referred to by my kids. On the track, he gave me advice, specified workouts, confidence, and success. Off the track, he gave me unconditional love, support, breakfast, and banana splits. In fact, I think that was your motivation for taking me to practice half the time. Frankly, he is really responsible for many of the things that I have in my life today and all of the lessons that came with it. It's truly not an exaggeration to say that I would not be here today without him. And a perfect example of this is how 20 years ago he invited me over to his house to see the half-dressed man on his roof, putting shingles, his neighbor. And he also did hand me a picture of him in the Sentinel in his wrestling singlet, and he said, you know, I think this would be a good match for you. So there he sits with our 3 children 20 years later. So, Nick, I do owe you an immeasurable thank you from the bottom of my heart. And in closing, now I get to add this to my list of memories. I am especially grateful that I get to share it with Kenneth, Grant, and Adeline, and Matt, my family. So thank you again, and congratulations to all of the inductees.
Thanks, Emily. Time for our final inductee of the night. And when I was putting this together for Fred Stoichev, the late Fred Stoichev, I looked at some of these records and I thought, these records seem ridiculous. Is this made up? Is this true? I looked them up, and they are correct. Yesterday, I took off half a day of work to come in here and help everybody get set up. I won't say who this person was, but my substitute teacher came in halfway through the day. And this guy's normally pretty talkative, and normally we discuss different things. And first thing he says when he comes through the door is not hello, where's your lesson plan? He says, well, you finally got it right. I said, huh? Well, it only took 4 tries, but you finally got it right. He was referring to this next guy being inducted into the Hall of Fame. And I'm glad we did get it right. Mr. Moore, you ready? The late Fred Stoichev.
To locals, they're still referred to as part of the glory days of Lewistown High School football. In 1957 and 1958, a young running back named Fred Stoichev led Lewistown High School to back-to-back undefeated, untied seasons. Stoichev helped lead the Panthers offense to averaging 40 points per game while going 19-0. His individual numbers are astounding. In 9 games as a junior, Fred rushed for 927 yards on just 64 carries. To show that he was a talent that would go on to stand the test of time, some of his records, more than 6 decades old, are still notable today. His 14.5 yard per carry average stood as a Pennsylvania record for 50 years and remains a top 10 number today. In addition, his 10 touchdown runs that season included 2 over 50 yards, 3 over 60, along with a 15, 25, 30, 78, and 98-yard jaunt. That unheard of 49-yard average per touchdown run was also a long-time Pennsylvania record. As a senior, Fred continued his record-setting accomplishments with 851 yards on 72 carries for an impressive 11.8-yard average. He averaged 36 yards per touchdown that season and added a touchdown reception and a pick six among his 16 total scores. His performance earned him over 24 scholarship offers and all-state recognition by the Associated Press and the UPI. He was not only the talk of the town, but the talk of the state. Fred was a member of the 1959 Pennsylvania Big 33. He went on to the United States military at West Point and the University of Pennsylvania, playing football at both. No one ever really figured out how to stop Fred, but unfortunately, his college career was cut short and hampered by a knee injury. Perhaps modern surgery today could have kept his career on course, but back then, the injury proved to be career-ending. Fred passed away in late 2023, but his memory and record-setting moments will live on in the mind of all of those who remember watching number 24 run to daylight time and time again at Old Mitchell Field. The Mifflin County Sports Hall of Fame welcomes the late Fred Stoichev.
Presenting Fred into the Hall of Fame tonight is a guy who knows him pretty well. Shared the backfield with him there at Lewistown High School. Gail, you're going to be assisting as well on this, I understand, right? This gentleman's one of our 2022 inductees. Wake the kids, phone the neighbors. Junior Powell is back. Come on up here, Junior.
I'm on a roll. When I introduced Cindy Baxter, what I did, I jumped up on the stage before they had the video, and I stumbled. And I'm still not a great public speaker. You know, they say, well, the best thing you can do is imagine your audience doesn't have any clothing. And that can work. But when I think of Dick Gingrich being negative, my eyes just burned. As they say, on a more serious note, Johnny mentioned his dad in World War II being B-26. Well, he had an uncle, Donald. Was he B-26 or B-24? B-24. Okay, Liberators. He had an uncle who was killed in combat in World War II, so that family certainly paid the price. Now we'll talk about, I remember Chariots of Fire, that's one of my favorite movies, but Lawrence of Arabia. And this may sound a little melodramatic, but honestly with Fred Stoichev, he is one of the most extraordinary people I ever met. He was probably the best athlete ever in in Mifflin County, for sure one of the top 5. But he was also a mercurial person. He was truly a thoroughbred. You know, he didn't dress like that, but he was a member of Mensa. And he didn't suffer fools lightly. Sometimes that would hurt him when it came to coaching and being a follower. He went to the University of Pennsylvania. He was recruited. He had a full ride at 26 schools, Division A. He decided to go to Penn. He was very academically inclined. Penn State really wanted him fiercely, but he turned his back on them. When he went to Penn, the Ivy League was still really good. You know, they're not what they are nowadays. I'm not bad-mouthing them, but they've sort of deregulated their football. He was MVP on the freshman team. He was all Ivy League as a freshman. But at that time, the Ivy League didn't have full rides. They had scholarships on need, and you had to have a financial statement from your parents before they would give you the grant aid. But to show you how highly regarded he was, his dad refused to give him a financial statement, and they still took him there. Well, he was doing great in class, but he ran afoul of his economics professor, which I certainly had a problem with econ when I was high school. The only phrase I ever learned was like supply side economics, and I don't know what the heck that means. But anyhow, there are different theories on that. And he took a theory, or his favorite theory was counter to what his econ professor was. And he wouldn't change it. And the professor tried, called him in, out of class and everything, and he wouldn't change it. And he answered his final exam that year the way he wanted it, and he was flunked. And at that time, he lost his grant aid, and his dad, again, refused to give him a financial statement. So Fred was out of Penn. And again, to show you how highly regarded he was, they sent him to Cornwall and the Hudson, which is West Point's prep school. And he was there like for 6 weeks, and they got him in the plebe class at West Point the next fall. But right away, it's really tough. I think everybody knows that. You lose weight, you hardly eat or anything. And he got mono, and then he had to come home. And he did wind up at Bloomsburg, but right away got a knee injury. He still had a halfway decent career, but he was way below par. And I have no question he could have played over at school. I call school Penn State. But he could have, I feel he could have been a starting safety and a wideout. But he never, materialized. And I think that it's held him against him. Maybe one of the reasons he wasn't inducted into our hall, because he didn't have much of a career after high school. But you can see from his stats, how potent he was. And another thing I'm proud of about him, also, every 5.3 times he touched the ball, he scored a touchdown. And he only ever scored 2 touchdowns in his high school career in the 4th quarter. Because a lot of times the team I was on, they were accused of running up their stats in garbage time, and that didn't happen. I'll sort of close this with one little anecdote about Fred to show you what his mercurial personality was like. he was playing in Bloomsburg, and they had a game in Westchester, and the coach sent him in with a play, and he changed the play, but he went 60 yards for a touchdown. Well, the coach yanked him real quick, and at halftime, the coach devoted practically all his lecture to, you know, what Fred did, you know, was he disobeyed him, this and that. So Fred and one of his teammates, they decided they weren't going out for the second half. So they get dressed and, you know, left the stadium, and I forget what highway, I don't know if it's the Schuylkill Expressway down there or what, near Westchester. A lot of you people would know. But anyhow, they're hitchhiking back to Bloom, and this is God's truth. The team bus passed them. So that just encapsulates what kind of person he was. I really think he's so deserving of this honor, and of course, where is Gail there? His niece Gail, who spends half her time between Brooklyn and Lewistown, she will accept and make some comments on behalf of the family. Thank you much.
Thank you, Junior, for your words. You know a lot more of the good stories than I do. I'll just briefly add that I know my uncle would be absolutely thrilled to receive this. I wish he could be here with all of you to receive it. He'd be honored beyond words to be part of this community, to be among the honorees tonight who have legendary careers. As Junior said, he kind of got sidelined a bit by his own doing often. But I know that he would really appreciate it, so thank you very much.
Great story. Again, a lot of great stories tonight, which to me is the reason why we all come. We all want to hear stories that are sometimes hard to believe, and that last one certainly is part of that. To our 6 new inductees, let's have one more round of applause. Reminder from us, if you haven't renewed, we'd love to have you back next year as a member. Our website is online again in about 5-6 days. Tonight's ceremony will be there as well. If you heard some stories and some things maybe that you think someone else would enjoy, please direct them to the website to see it. On behalf of our president, Tim Sear, and everybody on our committee, thanks for coming. Let's go home.